I have here an iPhone Air and an iPhone 17 Pro Max, and I love both of these phones for very different reasons. For the first time, I'm struggling to figure out which phone I want to use as my everyday carry main phone that my SIM card is in. Both my head and my heart want two very different things, so I figured I'd use this video as kind of a therapy session to figure it out. Let's start off by talking about the obvious difference between these two devices. The iPhone Air is the big new thing this year. It's 5.6 millimeters thick. For reference, the previous thinnest iPhone was actually the iPhone 6 at 6.9 millimeters. That was the Bendgate phone, and that used to be the thinnest iPhone. Ever since the iPhone 6, they've only got thicker. Also, another interesting data point, the iPhone Air is actually 0.3 millimeters thicker than the M4 iPad Pro. So the M4 iPad Pro is the thinnest device computer Apple sells. The iPhone Air feels extremely good to hold in your hand. So much so that when I have both the Pro Max and the Air next to me, I always grab the Air. The look of the iPhone Air is very elegant, almost like a piece of jewelry. Now, this isn't something I would normally care about. I don't really care about status symbols or anything like that. I mean, I wear the same style of t-shirt every single day. For me, I am a function over form person. But the Air looks and feels like the iPhone of the future. Like if we were to jump into the future 5 to 8 years, this is what the iPhone would be. That's what it feels like to hold in your hand. And that is really exciting. I love when technology feels like that. It reminds me of the 2018 iPad Pro or the iPhone 10 or the iPhone 4. Those big jumps, that's what the iPhone Air feels like. The iPhone Air feels impossible in a way the iPhone hasn't felt in a long time, and that's exciting. And the only reason why this isn't the flagship phone this year is because in order to make it this thin in 2025, they had to make some compromises. The Pro iPhone this year has a very different look to it. This year they feel very industrial, like a tool. And for me, that's what the iPhone is. It's a tool. It's a place for me to work, to write emails, to capture notes, tasks, take photos, videos. The stuff I do for my work, I can do on here on my phone. And that's what the iPhone 17 Pro Max really feels like this year. The iPhone 17 Pro Max also has more rounded edges to it, so it feels really good to hold in your hand. Dramatically a lot less sharp than the 12 to 14 era of Pro phones. Now, believe it or not, this is actually the blue version of the iPhone Air. I've held it under so many different lighting conditions, and I do not see any blue to it at all. It just looks white to me. I don't see any blue here. But the iPhone 17 Pro Max in Cosmic Orange, it definitely looks orange, and I love it. I absolutely love this bold color. Finally, the Pro iPhones are getting this bright, bold color. Now, the blue Pro phone also looks good as well, but for my personal phone, I went with the orange this year just because it was the most dramatic. It was the most different. It was something exciting, and I'm really glad I did because I really love the look of it. Now, the iPhone Air weighs 165 grams. The iPhone 17 Pro Max weighs 233 grams. That's a 68 gram difference. And it's very, very noticeable when you're holding both of them in your hand. Especially for a long period of time, the iPhone Air is really comfortable to hold if you're writing out really long messages, emails, notes, watching video, holding it up, showing off a bunch of photos, taking a long video, playing games, anything like that where you're holding your phone for a long period of time. This is really comfortable to hold. This is bulky. It's industrial. One thing that I thought would bug me is the smaller screen size on the Air. It has a 6.5-inch screen. The Pro Max has a 6.9-inch screen. And for reference, the regular iPhone 17 and Pro have a 6.3-inch screen. The regular phone size, the 17 and the 17 Pro, are just a bit too small for me. I like a big phone. I like having a big screen to type on. I like having more space to type, more content on the display, and a bigger video playback area. Now, to me, the iPhone Air feels a lot closer to the iPhone Pro Max than it does to the regular iPhone size. which I think is a really good plus for it, especially if you're somebody that doesn't like the physical size of the Pro Max, but want that big screen. Because technically, the iPhone Air is closer to the regular iPhone size than it is to the iPhone Pro Max. It's only 0.2 millimeters bigger than that regular iPhone. The amount of content that the Air could display versus the Pro Max was impressive. Obviously, the Pro Max was more, but I felt the Air was good enough for me. Also, I was able to type on the Air comfortably. I've mentioned in the past I have big hands and I can type on the Pro Max one-handed if need be, which is a wild thing for me to even think about because I used to type on the iPhone 4 screen no problem, but we as humans adapt to new situations and I highly doubt I could go back to that iPhone 4 style screen. I've adapted to bigger screen sizes and it's easier for me to type on a bigger screen. Now, the screen tech is the same in both the Air and the Pro Max. They have OLED displays, ProMotion, and the new 3000 nits peak outdoor brightness. So really, it's just about the physical screen size. The screen technology themselves, it's the same in both of them. So really, the Air feels like it's enough for me, but everyone's mileage may vary. Now, there are two categories where both of these phones really diverge from each other, and it starts to be a really hard case to make for the Air. First is the camera. I mean, just look at the back of these things. You can count, there's a big difference. There's one lens on the Air, there's 1, 2, 3 on the Pro Max. And I'm not going to get into the whole Apple optical lens thing. Apple and I have very different definitions of what an optical lens is. Maybe I'm just a cranky old photographer, but that's... The Pro Max has the ultra-wide, wide, and telephoto, and for the first time, they all have a 48 megapixel sensor that they can take full advantage of. And also for the first time, the telephoto actually takes decent photos, like to the point where I'm happy using it. In the past, it was always begrudgingly using it if I couldn't get close enough to a subject. I never defaulted to the telephoto. But I'm gonna save a bunch of examples for my camera test video. I actually am going on a trip and have like this whole thing planned to test the cameras. It's actually kind of a big deal. So I'll save that for later. Now, the iPhone Air just has the regular wide camera lens that the iPhone Pro Max has, and it's the same camera lens. And luckily, that's the best camera lens the iPhone Pro Max has. This is the lens I shot probably 80% of my photos with previous Pro phones, so it wouldn't be that big of a loss to lose the other lenses for me, but the other ones do come in handy sometimes. What the Air doesn't have is one of my favorite features about the iPhone Pro, and that is the Pro RAW camera capture feature. So for those that don't know, the iPhone Pro for a while now has been able to capture in a format called Pro RAW. When you shoot a photo, it captures a RAW photo. Now, a RAW photo is a much bigger file size than a typical JPEG photo. But with that, you get a bunch of extra data. So say like your photo's really dark. Well, that RAW photo captures extra data. So you're able to edit your photo and bring up the shadows, bring up the black levels so you can, bring up some of those dark areas. It's really nice, and especially if you're somebody that does like a lot of landscape photography or portrait or any kind of professional photography, you have to be shooting in RAW. Plus, under Settings, Camera, Format, there's a feature in there to turn the way you capture photos into JPEG XL, either lossless or lossy. I use lossless, but if you're not going to edit photos, use lossy to save you some storage space. This is your RAW format when you capture a photo. So when you shoot in RAW, what this does is it cuts out that HDR look that standard iPhone photos or smartphone photos give you. I cannot stand the whole like phone HDR photo look because it just looks fake. It looks like a fantasy to me. It doesn't look like a real photograph. I do not like that HDR look. Ever since the iPhone XS, I've not been a fan of it. So not having Pro RAW on the iPhone Air really hurts because that means all of your photos are going to have that HDR look to them. I've also been using my iPhone to shoot a lot more video for the channel here, and having log is really nice. So basically what log is it shoots in this very flat profile and allows you to color grade your footage to kind of give it a very specific look, a very specific mood. And what I do with that is it allows me to sort of get close to matching my Canon camera. So if I shoot like a big chunk of a video on my Canon camera, but oh crap, I forgot to do this thing, I need a pickup shot, I can take out my iPhone really quick, shoot it, and I can get pretty close to matching it to the point where I don't think anyone has ever noticed. It's kind of weird the iPhone Air didn't get these software features, considering that the iPhone Air has the A19 Pro chip, the same Pro chip that is in the 17 Pro and Pro Max. It's just the Air is missing one GPU core, and I highly doubt that missing one GPU core is the reason why it can't shoot ProRAW or log or even ProRes. The other category that the Pro Max just absolutely dominates is battery. I mean, look at these two things. Like, this one is so much thicker. It's gonna have so much more space for battery, and it has a bigger battery in it. But the Air isn't a complete deal breaker. So for the iPhone Air, I kind of ran a few just normal everyday tests. After 12 hours of just normal everyday usage, I was at about 44%. This last Sunday morning, I woke up at 3 a.m. because Formula One was on. I know, but I'm somebody that I don't like watching the replay. I like watching it live. When I got up, the iPhone Air was at 100%. It charged overnight. When I went to bed at 9 p.m., the iPhone battery life was at 28%. I am using the new adaptive power mode. This throttles the chip back and throttles a few things back when your iPhone's not being heavily used or used at all, like when it's just sitting on a table like it is right now. This hasn't really been a big deal. I haven't noticed a big performance drop in anything. It's been fine. But this particular Sunday was a pretty normal day for me. I was in here, I was working all day. I mean, it was iPhone release weekend, so I was in here working all day long on videos and photos and a bunch of other stuff. And I was using my phone. I was using it to write notes. I was using it write tasks. I sent some emails. I, took photos with it. I did a bunch of testing and stuff with it. It was, look stuff up on the web, use ChatGPT, ran some shortcuts, all the very typical things I do with my iPhone, I was doing with this. So it was a very normal day for me. I left the house once to go get some donuts for me and my girlfriend. I paired it to my car and listened to a podcast over Bluetooth and worked fine. Yeah. So for that day, from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, the iPhone Air never touched the charger. If I was doing more stuff outside of the house, the battery probably would have drained more, but this was a pretty typical day for me. But also, it's still really early on in the iPhone setup process, so it's still indexing stuff in the background. iPhones typically take a week after setup to kind of settle down and have all your files and photos and all the stuff that it does in the background, all those tasks to kind of finish out and battery life to be pretty normal. So probably evens out, but it's definitely not a true scientific battery test experiment. Those take weeks to do perfectly, so I'll be working on that, but that's not something you can do within a week or two of having an iPhone. But knowing I can make it through a very long, typical day with the iPhone Air is really important to me, and I feel good about that. Now, the other big surprise is outside of setup, the iPhone Air hasn't got super hot. I was actually expecting this to just be like a thermal grenade, like this thing to be really warm a good chunk of the time, especially when it was doing heavy tasks. I used the app Quick Subtitles as a test to basically transcribe a video locally on my iPhone, and it got warm when it was doing that, but it didn't get hot. And when it did get warm, it was all located in the camera plateau, because this is where all like the iPhone chips and stuff are. This part is all battery. This is where like the phone bits are. Now, the 17 Pro Max got hot during setup, like pretty much every iPhone does, especially when you're transferring a lot of data. But after that settled down, I haven't felt it get warm at all. Even I did the same thing I did on the iPhone Air. I used Quick Subtitles to transcribe a video locally, and it didn't feel warm at all. The vapor chamber and the aluminum unibody seem to be doing the work. Now, a couple of times over the last few days, I put the iPhone Air into low power mode. And when I did that, I could feel the phone getting throttled. Animations became choppy, processes became slower, things were noticeably throttled. But both of these devices have 12 gigs of RAM apiece, so performance-wise, as far as like multitasking goes, they were pretty much the same. Apps would stay open in the background. I could do the on-device transcription. I could run long shortcuts, things like that. There really wasn't any issues. So it kind of just boils down to, well, I'm stuck. The iPhone Air feels like the future. Maybe not quite ready for everyone just yet. Maybe more of a really polished working prototype, but man, does this feel good, and does this feel like the future. But the Pro Max feels like the utility tool that can handle any problem put before it. The iPhone Air is the minimalist phone. The iPhone Pro Max is the maximalist phone, and it really comes down to who I want to be. Where it came down is I'm going to give the iPhone Air a real go. My SIM card is in the iPhone Air right now. In fact, it's been in there since Saturday. Now I have a trip coming up, and I am going to put this phone through its paces. For better or worse, my SIM card is going to stay in this phone for that entire trip. I am going to bring the Pro Max with me because I have a day where I want to do camera tests with the Pro Max, but the SIM card will stick in the iPhone Air. This will just be for camera tests. By every metric except weight, the iPhone 17 Pro Max is the better device, but the iPhone Air feels like the future. We'll see where I end up, and I promise you this isn't a setup for a I was wrong video. I can't stand those. I hate when people make those. This really isn't a setup for that. I genuinely like both of these devices, and I'm not sure where I want to go, and I'm very fortunate that I actually get to test out both of those. Please know I see that. Did you know I have a podcast? It's called Comfort Zone. I'm joined every single week by my friend Matt and Neelion. We each bring a tech topic, a gadget, an app, a piece of gear, and we discuss it. Then there is the challenge, and this is where we, push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. Each week we challenge each other to try something that, normally we wouldn't do on our own. I love doing the show every single week. We're a part of the Mac Stories family of podcasts, and we're available in every single podcast player. Plus, there's a video version on the Mac Stories YouTube channel. Comfort Zone is a 100% free show, but if you like it, optionally, there is Cozy Zone, and this is an extra episode of the show every single week where we discuss more cozy and relaxed topics. I'm gonna put some links in the description below so you can go check out Comfort Zone if you're interested, but if you like these videos and you like tech podcasts, I'm sure you're gonna love it. But I want to hear from you all. What phone would you go with, or what phone did you go with if you bought one? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great day.